This is the first of a sequence of videos about sequences and series, and we're going to start off by looking at arithmetic sequences. Now these were the easy sequences that you met before you started your GCSEs, and they're called arithmetic sequences because the difference between each term is always the same thing. The additive difference is always the same. So here we're just adding on 4 each time. So to get to this third term, I start with my first term and I add on 2 lots of the difference, because across these first 3 terms there are 2 steps that I need to take. Across the first 4 terms there are 3 gaps or 3 steps that I would need to take to be able to get there. So how do I get to this 4th term in my sequence? Well, it would be 5 plus 3 lots of 4. How would I get to this 5th term in my sequence? It would be 5 plus, well, there are 4 gaps between those numbers, so 4 lots of 4. We'll see this again on the next page when we start looking at a bit of notation. So UN is going to be what we use to refer to the nth term in our sequence. A is going to be the first term. And D, unsurprisingly, is going to be our difference. Now, as we were starting to write down on the previous page, A is our first term, D is our difference, so I can start to change this like so. Now, the nth term is always going to have 1 less number of gaps, so this here becomes n minus 1. Why? Because for the second term I've taken 1 step. It's 1 less step than the number of numbers I have. For the third term there are 2 steps, for the 4th term there are 3 steps, and so on. So this becomes the general rule for my sequence. So that's what we want to have written down here, is that UN is equal to the first term plus n minus 1 lots of whatever the difference is. How do we make use of this? So here we have an arithmetic sequence that has 3rd term 12, 6th term 27, and we want to find a formula to generate the rest of this sequence. Well, I'm going to write out from the question that that 3rd term, U3, is equal to 12. What else do I know? I know that U6 is equal to 27. Well, I also know the formula is UN is equal to A plus n minus 1 lots of the difference. Now I'm going to use that formula to rewrite both of these. So in the 3rd term, that's going to be A plus n minus 1, that's 2 lots of the difference, which is 12. And A plus n minus 1, which is 5 lots of the difference, which is 27. And hopefully we see at this point that we've now formed simultaneous equations. I don't know A or D, but I've got 2 equations that I can use to find them. So A plus 2D was 12. I'll just write that underneath so that then we can do a subtraction here and find out that 3D is equal to 15, which is going to tell me that the difference here in my sequence is going to be 5. Now, knowing that, I can substitute that back into one of my previous equations. So potentially we're going to say that A plus 2 lots of 5, which is 10, is equal to 12. So that's going to then tell me that A must be equal to 2. So my general rule for this sequence, to find the nth term of this sequence, it's going to be the first term, which is 2, plus n minus 1 lots of 5. And that's how we're using this new notation.